If you're looking for more referrals from physicians, specifically hospital-controlled physicians, from POPS practice physicians and the orthopedic surgeons in your area, then you're in the right place. This is the POPS Killer Webinar. I'm Chad Madden, and this is hosted by Breakthrough PT Marketing. So as people filter in here and we get more registrants clicking through, so what we're going to do is you're going to have a toolbox over on, should be the right hand side of your screen if you're in a Google Hangout, and what you can do is you can write your questions in over there, and I'll do a little introduction here. We'll do about 40 minutes of content, and then the last 20 minutes we'll spend on either the questions that you've emailed in already or the questions that come up as we go out throughout this webinar. And again, this is the POPS Killer Webinar. If you're looking for more referrals from your physicians, specifically hospital-controlled physicians, POPS practice physicians, and orthopedic surgeons in your area, then you're in the right place. POPS Killer Webinar. So during this time,
just a sec. I just want to make sure it's working. I know we don't have anybody quite on yet, so just want to make sure it's working.
You do now.
Oh, we do?
One, yep.
Oh yeah, we've got one on. All right, cool.
So this is the POPS Killer Webinar. If you're looking for more referrals from physicians in your area, especially those owned by hospitals or controlled by hospitals, if you're looking for more referrals from POPS physicians or orthopedic surgeons in your area, then you're in the right place. So this is the POPS Killer Webinar. And during this time, what you can do is, as we're going through the first 40 minutes here, if you have a question, you can post it. There should be a little Hangout toolbox where you can post your questions, and we'll go through and try to answer at least some of those. During this time, I'm going to reveal how we have done the following. One, our top 2 referral groups. So every physician that refers a patient to us here at Madden Physical Therapy in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we use a referral tracker, and I'm going to reveal how our top 2 referring groups are both orthopedic surgeon groups with their own PT, and they own 4 different clinics between them, and also how to get 40 referrals plus a month from POPS physicians in your area. We're also going to cover how you can get a referral from a hospital owned or hospital-controlled physician, and you not get in trouble for doing that. Before we get into an introduction here, there's likely 2 reasons that you're here. One is you're a staff PT, or you're responsible for marketing for your private practice company, and you're responsible for getting new patients in, and you want to figure out how to do that in a better way, and you feel the pressure from the outside with hospital changes and physicians being bought, and also orthopedic surgeons or other specialists opening up their own PT. Or you could be a practice owner who is feeling pressure from the insurance cuts, or like we have here in central Pennsylvania, tiering, Obamacare, the 2 dangerous trends that are happening in PT, which is, again, hospitals buying physicians and buying your referral sources, and also orthopedic practices opening up their own PTs. Or third, you could be a PT marketing company who's just seeing what we're up to doing, and that's completely cool. I'll share everything with you. So also, so you're in one of those 3 categories, and then you're likely doing 1 of 2 things right now. One is you're doing really well, and you just want to tweak what you're doing to continue to grow and thrive, because you recognize that it's a really tough environment to grow a PT practice in. Or the second part of that is you're struggling, and you see the writing on the wall, and it's a desperate situation, and you're feeling the financial crunch. And I've worked with practice owners in both categories. So if that describes you, if any of that describes you, then you are in the right spot. This is the POPS Killer Webinar. And the next thing that I want to cover is, why am I qualified to give you this information? I have been in private practice for 11 years. I'm the sole owner here of Madden Physical Therapy in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We are in a pretty tumultuous environment, for lack of a better term, where we have 3 local hospital systems who own 65% of the referral sources in our area, so of the family physicians in our area. Also, we have 2 orthopedic groups that employ 100% of the orthopedic surgeons in our area, and they both have their own physical therapy practices. And the other thing is 2 of the largest corporations in the entire country are headquartered. One is headquartered less than 6 miles away from where I'm sitting right now, and the other one is headquartered less than 13 miles away. So I am in the trenches with you, and I can tell you this, and from 5 years ago until this last August, again, I told you we keep a referral tracker, we have seen our physician referrals decline from a high of 150 in a month to our solo practice here, down to a low of 39. Yet during that same time, we've had more new patients come in than ever before. So how are we doing that? I'll get to that here in a second. Also, in 2013, in spite of all these crunches that we've had, again, the insurance cuts, the Medicare changes that we're all going through with, the prepping for ICD-10 and the sequestration through Medicare, and them Medicare basically having any the multiple code, when we bill for multiple codes, they half our reimbursements. So in 2013, we doubled our profitability over what we had done in any previous year. And I'll get to that a little. I'll get to details of that here more in a second. So again, this is the POPTS Killer webinar, and what we're going to focus on is exactly how you can get referrals when we get to our main content here. What we can get from referrals, or how you can get referrals from physicians who either have their own PT practices or are controlled by the hospitals.
So we've got most people are on now. I'm going to probably send one more email out because some people are having some trouble, but there's a lot of people I can see listening. We have over 30 on now, so it's climbing. So it's working. So you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. So if you're joining us right now, there is a question box. You're going to want to click your Hangout toolbox in Google, and you'll be able to enter your questions in there, and we'll answer that in the last 20 minutes. And just to quick summarize the first 7 or 8 minutes, if you're joining us right now, this is the POPTS Killer webinar, and we're going to talk about how to get referrals from physicians who have other interest, whether they're controlled by the local hospital system or they already have their own PT. So, and I have a special offer for those who hang on here to the end and get through the content, which we'll cover here, which you'll be able to apply to your practice and implement it right away and get a result out of that. And also through the question and answer for those viewers who hang on to the end. I have a special offer, and I will share with those viewers who are still here at the end my greatest promotion ever, and this is what we did here at my clinic. October 29th of 2013, we had 65 new patients come in one day, and all of this was through one promotion, and that promotion alone was worth over $100,000 in income to the clinic. But that month, the month of October 2013, we had over, it was over 200, I believe it was 209 new patients that we had come through here in a month, all centered around this one single promotion. So if you're on the webinar right now, hang out to the very end, and I'll have a special offer with for you where you can use that same exact tool and use it to grow and boom your practice. The other thing that we'll do is we'll cover 5 clinical predictor rules of exactly who we work with, just in case you are in a POPTS practice right now. I don't share this information with just anybody, but the content for the next 30 minutes you're more than welcome to, and then like I said, I'll have a special offer for those truly in private practice here at the end. As I alluded to before, so why me and why am I doing this? We are in the trenches here in central Pennsylvania, where again I have the we have 3 hospital systems that own and control 65% of the referral sources in our area. And so over the last 5 years, we've had a huge decline, almost of 75% of physicians who are able to refer. So many times we've been treated physician or the physician's family in the past, and now they sold their practice to the hospital, and we're butting up against that physician can no longer come here or can no longer refer their patients here because they're policed by the local hospital systems through the EMR. And what we're doing is creating solutions about how to go around that. So I'll share that here in a little bit. Also, as I alluded to before, in 2013 we doubled our profitability over any single year of what we had previously done. So just to give you an idea of the size of our clinic, and we are completely independent, privately owned PT practice, and we is right now, I'm the sole owner here, and it's always been that way for the last 11 years. But when I say double our profitability in 2013, what I mean by that, and I get this question commonly, what does that mean? Well, our previous high had been $337,000 in profit in a year, and last year we were over $700,000. So a lot of the 3 main points that I'm going to share today are exactly how we're doing that in spite of this absolutely dangerous climate to operate a PT practice in. So why am I sharing this? Well, we're motivated by 3 things: fear, love, and duty. And the one fear that I have is, and this was actually came from a meeting that I had with one of my mentors recently, and we were sitting down, and this guy's a genius, and he operates in another industry. He's in real estate, commercial real estate, and we got to a certain point. He said, so now that you have your practice and it's up and running, and you built the ideal business that exceeded anything that you ever thought that you would do, what's your next step? And I was like, I don't know, like I really like to garden and do stuff like that, and I have some other interests, and I have 5 kids, and I own about 40,000 square feet of commercial real estate, and I have these other interests. And he said, basically when I got to the end of me saying all that I had on my plate, he said, it would be a real shame if you would just walk away, and it's now your responsibility that you've done all these things. You've developed 27 different marketing pathways to grow your physical therapy practice. It would be a real shame if you just folded up and said, hey, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish, and you don't share that with anybody else. So he really, really pushed me and said, you know what, you need to share this. It's your responsibility. There are private practices out there that are really struggling. We have it here in central Pennsylvania, and we have it when I talk with therapists in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Indiana, Illinois, California. Across the country, we're really getting hit hard by the main stressors. Again, it's Obamacare, the Medicare cuts, hospitals and physician-owned practices really pressing financially the private practice owner and putting stress there. So we can create solutions, or we can make excuses and complain, and what I'm here to bring to you and share with you is solutions of how to do that. Again, we have should be a Hangout toolbox, and if you have any questions as I'm going through the content here, which we're going to start right now, I'll throw that into the comments section, and I'll answer your questions as we hit the end here. Wonderful. So let's look at the pathway first of how this affects us. So a hospital buys a physician practice, and then through EMR regulates whether they can refer to you or not. And basically, if there's not a financial incentive for the hospital, which I haven't heard of any cases of where that is not happening, they're buying that physician's ancillary referrals. So they're buying the x-rays, they're buying the other diagnostic imaging, whether it's MRI, they're buying the injections referrals, they're buying the PT referrals, they're buying the OT referrals. So that is the value of the practice of why the hospitals are buying those physicians and their referrals. So why would they ever allow that to happen to you? That's problem number one. Why would they ever allow a referral to you and your PT practice? There are ways around that, and we'll get to that here in a second. the physician-owned practice. Again, it's I'll share with you how we've become known as like the place for the VIPs, but we won't see the bulk of the orthopedic surgeons' referrals, but we'll get their brother-in-law, their sister-in-law, their wife, their children. That's the type of patient that we'll see. You need to bring something of value to the table other than finance, and it must supersede the financial incentive that orthopedic surgeon has to refer to their own clinic. So we'll talk about that. And corporately, one of the most intimidating things can be, with the two entities that I referred to earlier, one who has corporate headquarters less than 6 miles of where I'm sitting now, the other who has the largest PT company in the country is headquartered less than 13 miles away from where I'm sitting right now, and they have over 30 clinics here in central Pennsylvania. So that's really, really intimidating for most of us private practice owners to compete against. So we're going to go through that as well. So as we're discussing, as we're going through the core of our content here and the three-pronged approach that you can implement immediately to begin increasing your physician referrals. So as we're going through this, again, you have a question box over on the side. If you misunderstand something, just make sure you add your question in there. Point number one is, first point is, it's okay to be number two. So again, if I'm an orthopedic surgeon and you're coming in to sell me of why I should refer to Smith PT, of why I should refer to Madden PT, or whatever the XYZ physical therapy company name is, that you want a reason to do that. And if I get money, if I have a financial incentive to refer to my own practice, why would I refer to you? That's a really tough question to answer. But an easy, as you go along, the thing that we have found to be successful is it's okay to be number two. And when we do get that referral from the orthopedic surgeon, we make sure that we say, oh, you must be a VIP. You must be very important because this orthopedic surgeon refers the bulk of their referrals to XYZ PT that is in their same building or whatever the name, wherever that is. But you are special and you were referred here. We make it a really, really big deal and acknowledge the fact that that orthopedic surgeon sent to us. You want to bring a lot of value to, and I can tell you just from doing surveys, the number one spot we fall short on as private practice owners when we do get a POPTS referral is in communication. So if they refer downstairs in the basement, which is a reference to the POPTS practice I used to work for a local orthopedic clinic my first 2 years out of college and my first 2 years of my career. But if they can refer down there, they know my communication system is really quick and easy where I can send straight upstairs. So how do we get around that? Well, when that patient comes through, who we just told is a VIP, when they have a follow-up, we make sure we hand deliver a note to that patient to take with them on their appointment and make sure that that communication loop never is broken and becomes a complaint of that orthopedic surgeon. So anytime you do get a referral, even if it's only one every 6 months now or one a year, we make it a really big deal to the patient that they were referred here, and also we make it a big deal that to the doctor, the referral source, the POPTS physician, and we stay in communication with them and make it good communication. The most common mistake that I see us making as private practice PTs is we cut off the communication. So it's patients going back for a progress or discharge and no note, or we just say, hey, you know what? They have their own PT. They're never going to send to me anyhow. The private practice owner that says that completely blocked out any possible solution to ever correcting that situation or ever making it more ideal to the survival of their own private practice. If my thought process over here is, why would they ever send to me? I shouldn't even send them a newsletter, or I shouldn't even communicate with them. Then that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy for myself, where if I say, hey, you know what can I do to be number two? Oh, I need to have really clean clear-cut communication. I need to bring value to that orthopedic surgeon, and we'll get to one of the techniques we use for that here a little bit later on. But I need to bring something of value, maybe be known really well for shoulder surgeries, or really well known for total hip or total knee, something along those lines. But by not communicating on a routine basis, what happens is, okay, so let's do this just happened to us, and I pride myself on doing this, but so in our area, in Pennsylvania, and likely the state that you're in right now, patients have a right to choose. As private practice owners, we commonly make the mistake of using "you have a right to choose where you go for PT" as our marketing message. That is not a good marketing message. What is a good marketing message is when a patient comes through and they were referred by their family physician, or they reach us through another pathway, maybe a health fair, maybe they read a pamphlet we wrote, or read a book we wrote, or saw us speak somewhere, and now they come in for PT. The biggest thing that you want to do is stay in communication with that patient. Why? Because if you saw Mary Smith for back pain, and then 2 years later she needs a total hip replacement, and you haven't stayed in contact with her, what's going to happen is she's going to get her total hip, she's going to go in for a follow-up with the orthopedic surgeon, he's going to say, I want you to go to PT downstairs, and there's going to be no resistance at all, because we, as private practice owners, did not do our due diligence and keep a communication system going with her. The thing that we've done for the last 9 or 10 years is we have regular communication going out, yes, both email, Facebook, YouTube, and especially direct mail. We'll never let that drop out because it's the best return on our marketing dollar. But we have a 4-pronged approach there, 4 different media channels that we're using to communicate with our past patients. And now what happens is when Mary Smith goes into the orthopedic surgeon and the surgeon says, I want you to go downstairs for PT, she's going to say, no, I want to go to Madden PT. That's where I went before. And if we have a good relationship with the doctor, he's going to sign off and become a referral. He will refer his patient to us. If we would have dropped off communication to Mary, she's easily going to be persuaded. If we have good communication with her and she knows that all of our news, and she knows that we have a fundraiser coming up, and then I shaved my head for St. Baldrick's Day as a fundraiser for children with cancer, and that I just had a daughter, and that we have a gardening initiative going on, and that we've given her good, valuable information in the past and continue to build that relationship even after she was discharged, she's going to be a lot more stubborn on our behalf that she wants to come here for her PT. So that is point number 1, is it's okay to be number 2, and it's okay to be the place where VIPs go. And that's how we get 40 a month from those 2 large orthopedic surgeon practices. The second point is this, and it's the most common mistake I see private practice owners making, is they ignore their greatest asset. So if I asked you right now, just write this down, what's your greatest asset in your business? Like, why would another company want to buy your practice? Why would, if an investor, and if your business was traded on the New York Stock Exchange, what perceived value would they have in your business? And it's really going to come down to the relationship with your lists. And what do I mean by your list? Well, 1, you have a past patient list. So if we were going to, let's take the area that I'm in, 17112 is the zip code that I operate in right here. So 17112, we have about 100,000 people, and if we had to place a bet or a wager on who would be most likely to come back into Madden Physical Therapy for additional service, where would you put your money? Well, really quick and easy, it's going to be the people who live in 17112 who've already been customers here. So you want to take that same viewpoint. Like if you regularly eat at Chipotle, like I do, or you regularly shop at Target or Costco, or wherever that may be, where are you likely to shop again in the future? At that same location. Now, I know you're probably thinking, hey, you know what? I saw Mary Smith for shoulder surgery, and once she's done with me, she's never going to come back. Well, Mary Smith has a body, and if her shoulder broke down, there's a really good chance that she has a neck So a cervical or a thoracic issue or a lumbar issue or a hip issue or a knee issue or a balance issue later on down the road. And if you drop her off at the door and never communicate with her again, guess what? She's going to fly at the whim, at the chance of wherever she's at, whatever she sees, whoever tells her in a red hat club that you really need to go to ABC physical therapy and not XYZ physical therapy because you refuse to communicate with her on a routine basis. So the most common mistake most private practice owners are making is they're refusing to communicate with their patient base on a routine basis. And I'm not talking about email only. You know, we personally in here with Madam PT, we get a really good response on our email to a very select population. So we might get a 50% open rate if we go through and sort our list specifically. Now, the calls to action, where we have somebody calling in to schedule an appointment or they're calling in to request specific information, much, much higher on direct mail. So I know the accounting in most of us wants to save money, right? We want to save money. So we knock out our marketing budgets, which is a huge mistake, and we say, you know what, I can send out an email through Constant Contact or whatever CRM company we're using there. That's a customer resource manager. So we say, you know what, I can send out an email to 8,000 people for free, or $20 a month, or $100 a month, whatever that is. So I can communicate with all these people for free. But I can, over here, if I send to 8,000 people, I need to spend $4,000 to do that mailing piece, or maybe even more. Why would I ever want to do that? And what happens is most companies that drop out their direct mail, that's the last nail in the coffin. They're on their way out. And think about this. You know, when you think internet and you think search, what do you think of? Google, right? So Google is the leader in search engines worldwide. How does Google advertise Google Ads? They do it with direct mail. Okay? So they're advertising to use Google Ads via direct mail. Why would you drop direct mail out of your process if Google considers it that valuable that they have it in theirs? You know, think about the mail that you get, and I'm sure you say, you know what, I get postcards, I get magazines, I never buy anything from there. Well, if you've never bought from a catalog, what they'll do is they'll decrease the rate at which you receive that catalog. That's an advanced concept that we won't get into in too much depth here, but you know, really, if we had to place a wager on who's going to buy from your physical therapy practice again, it's the people that have already bought from you in the past. It's the people that you've already served. So you can very easily go back and build keep that relationship going. And what will happen is, like, we just had this happen last week where a lady came in who hasn't been here in 9 years, and she said, I still get your newsletters, and now I'm coming for, and I think it was her shoulder this time around. We saw her for her back in the past. But that happened. So that plan of care happened because we kept in contact with her for 9 years. So was it worth it? Absolutely. So that's a mistake that a lot of PT practice owners will make, is they will completely ignore their patient base, their past patients. In that same vein, the other thing that you don't want to ignore, especially because we're talking about getting referrals from physicians, those employed by the hospital, and also the POPTS practice physicians, is you don't want to ignore them. You know, it's, if I'm doing a newsletter and I'm only mailing it to independent physicians, I mean, I'd be out of business right now. I would not be here doing this webinar with you. So as these practices were getting bought up over the last 5 years, if I would have listened to what you know, some of our staff was saying, or listened to advice from other private practice owners, and I can think of some very specific examples there, if I would have listened to that, we would not have continued to grow the way that we have. So, you know, you don't want to listen to that advice, which is saying, oh, they already have their own practice. You don't need to bother to continue to communicate with them. That's baloney. You can still get referrals, and consistent referrals, from those physicians. And the third thing that I want to cover is an idea from a book. And this will be the glue that brings everything together for you. So again, if you have questions, I'm not seeing any questions come up, but if you have questions, make sure you post them, because we're going to start the Q&A session here in about 10 minutes. But this third key principle is this. It's from a book originally titled The Patterson Principles, written by Jeffrey Gitomer, and then he redid it a few years ago, and it's called Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Platinum Book of Cha-Ching, and it's a story about a guy named John Patterson. And John Patterson was the chief sales director for a company called National Cash Register, so NCR. And really they got to a point where they were almost considered a monopoly, but it wasn't always that way. So let's go back, and this is what the book does. Go back to the late 1800s, and I believe it was 1872. And basically what you had throughout the country were a whole bunch of store owners, right? There was no Walmart yet. You didn't have commercial electricity yet. It was very limited. You didn't have paved roads. You didn't have the automobile. You didn't have the telephone. So no technology. So late 1800s, right? Imagine how much different that would be than where we're at now, where we're communicating via a Google Hangout or via Skype and a webcam. So late 1800s, John Patterson took National Cash Register and went around and tried to sell this machine to store owners, and very quickly ran up against a lot of rejection because his machine was priced at 5 to 10 times more than the other cash registers. And what you had at that point were store owners who had a calculator and a little cash box. Theft was sky high, and that was his original angle was, well, you can reduce theft with my cash register. And that didn't fly at all. So he went back to the drawing board, and what he did was he turned around and went back to the consumer and began advertising directly to the consumers and said, by the way, when you shop at this five and dime store, ask your merchant for a receipt. And he created the need for a receipt. So what he now sold was the cash register that had not only the calculator, extremely helpful, not only the cash box, but also it would generate, every time there was a transaction, it would generate a receipt. And the customer would carry this receipt as a proof of their purchase. So very quickly, and you can see where I'm going with this, and you can see where Jeffrey Gitomer went with the story as well. John Patterson now went around, and rather than him having to go to the store owners and beg and plead and please buy my cash register or please send me a referral would be the parallel. What was happening now is those customers were going to the store owner and saying, I want a receipt with that. And the store owner would have to break out a sheet of paper, carbon copy paper, whatever it was at the time, write out a receipt and then hand it to the customer. That's a pain in the tail. Very quickly justified the need for that store owner to begin buying cash registers that generated a receipt. And very quickly NCR, by the turn of the century, that is the 19th century, very quickly, or the 20th century, by the 1900s became number one in the nation and ultimately the world for building and selling these registers, these cash registers. And again, they were priced 5 to 10 times higher than any other cash register on the market. So again, like, how can we use that? Well, if you go directly to your consumer and you're known for giving something valuable, I'll give an example here on this as we wrap up, but if you're known to give something valuable and your strong-willed customer or client or patient, whatever you want to refer to them as, goes to the physician and tells the physician where they're going to go, you're going to get a lot of referrals, right? Because that physician usually doesn't have the legal or ethical standpoint to be able to say, well, you can't go to XYZ physical therapy. All right. So quick story on how to apply that. I own Madden Physical Therapy here 100%. Then I have a satellite office which is now another, it's called an affiliate, but it's Gilbert Physical Therapy, and Mike Gilbert is my partner there. We're 50-50 partners. It's over in Mechanicsburg. And for about a year now, Mike has bought a 3-minute time slot on the ABC affiliate here, and he does something called Good Day PA. And he usually offers a free screening, and the highest, prior to April, the highest response that he ever got from his 3 minutes on the air, was 12 people calling in to schedule an appointment. And I said, Mike, I started doing this thing called direct response marketing. We're using it here at Madden really well. You should really look at doing this, but why not offer? We did a book, and yeah, let me grab it. So I have a book right here. Wrote this book a few years back. It's designed as a white label book, so that's where other therapists can use it. So Mike went through, made the book his, and then he offered this during the course of the television program. And so previous high was 12 people calling his office from this 3 minute, which by the way is worthwhile. It cost about I think $300 or $400 for him to do that on a monthly basis, and he gets some other perks in there as well. So it was paying off. We just really wanted to boom it though. And I said, why don't you use direct response? And I said, well, one, qualify the person that's calling in. So he did a special promotion for the book, and to qualify, you had to be 50 years of age or older. You had to have pain in your back or your legs with standing and walking, and relief with sitting, and you had to live in one of the 3 counties around his clinic. That afternoon, they had over 50 people call in. To date, he had 15. I know that he's seen 15 initial evaluations or initial examinations directly from that, plus more trickle in, and he didn't have an exact number for me. But as of last week, the official count was 15, and he had over 70 people request the book for free. So, what is the deal with that? Well, now he has people that he can follow up with. We know that they're likely, so here, I gave you the clinical predictor rules. So 50 years of age or older, pain with standing and walking, relief with sitting. What does that sound like? We know it's very high percentage, very high likelihood based on our specificity and sensitivity that those people have stenosis. So he has a whole program around that, and then he can communicate with that list on that very specific program that he has. So now when that person who got Mike's signed copy of his book goes to their family physician if they need a referral, and that family physician is employed by the hospital, do you think that family physician is going to say, hey, you know what? You shouldn't really go see the stenosis specialist who was recognized on TV, who has studied with the top physical therapist in the world at the University of Pittsburgh, and the researchers there. Sorry if I offended you if you're from USC or another leading university, but they're not going to be able to shake that authority, celebrity, and expert status that Mike has created for himself by doing what he's doing. So he sends them a nice shock and awe package. They get the package. Wow, this is absolutely amazing. And they're very highly likely to schedule an appointment. As we said, 15 and counting have already scheduled in, and he's busier than what he can handle right now, which creates a conundrum because he's wanting to do the same thing tomorrow. So, what do we do with that? Which is a good problem to have, more patients than you can possibly handle. So he, created this direct response marketing campaign. People called in. We now have a list of over 70 people who we know really, really high likelihood that they have stenosis. And then what we can do is market to them success stories. And if you're in Illinois, we'll get to how to handle that here in a second. Did you know that in Illinois you cannot use a testimonial to advertise any sort of medical or healthcare practice? That's absolutely insane, but there's a way around that. But then what we can do with our list is we can send them very specific testimonials that match up with who we understand that person to be. Okay, so Carl, I'm not seeing any questions here.
And Chad, you just got to click over on the left, like if you hover over the left and click on the thing that looks a little blue box.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions.
Oh, yes, there are. Okay, now I got
And for anybody who's having trouble that wants to submit a question, if you're joined and you have not logged in through Google+, it's not going to allow you to. So you'll have to either create a Google account, or if you have one, just sign in with that, and you'll be able to ask questions. But there's a bunch. I put a few in here that I got over email as well.
Okay, wonderful. So question number one is, you say you routinely communicate with your past patients. How frequently is this? We use a concept called split testing for everything that we do. So it's in physical therapy. If we're doing a treatment, we always have a control, and then we always have an experimental. It's how the neck pain patient do with manual therapy plus exercise versus the patient who did exercise only. And then we publish that in JOSPT or JMMT or physical therapy journal. Look at marketing your same exact way. So what we have found is that we never need to do more than once every 3 weeks, and we never want to go any farther than once every 6 weeks. Okay, so like I know a lot of people will do a quarterly newsletter. I think that's way too long. It's like you have a date with the homecoming queen or the homecoming king, and you're not going to talk to them for 3 months at a time. That's insane. We have found that anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks is optimum, so we just stick on a monthly schedule right now. Will there be a PowerPoint presentation that will be available? Unfortunately, I have patients now. Carl, they'll be able to access this, correct? A recording of this? Possibly, if we make it available. Okay.
Yeah, for anybody who's on, we will provide a way to get a recording of this at the end. So they'll just have to, we'll give you at the end. We'll give you a way to get the recording.
Wonderful. Next question. Is it in the Blue Cross Blue Shield policy stating only physical therapists can treat patients? Can a PTA see Blue Cross Blue Shield patients? As of right now, I have not heard that. That is something new to me, and I stay fairly up to date as a business owner with 30 employees here. I stay up to date on that. I haven't heard that. So again, that's news to me. You're going to want to obviously check with your Blue Cross or Blue Shield representative for that. Next question. So how did he go about affordably creating the book? Well, one, he has me as a partner, so that helps a lot. So what we've done for other PT companies is license the ability to print the book, and that's something that we can definitely handle directly with you. And they're not expensive to print. You can print a book for $2 a copy, depending on how many you get. Have you tried sending newsletters through text messages, SMS? If so, how's that working for you? We did it one time. We will not do it again. And the thing that everybody really gets caught up in is it is really easy to go super high tech, but and we're finding this out in all businesses that it's just not specific to physical therapy. But if I mail you an actual book versus giving you a free PDF file to download of the same exact information, you perceive this as a lot more valuable. And it's the same exact thing with a newsletter. A newsletter might be 50 cents or $1, but if you're getting a really good return on that, we don't tamper with that too much other than testing against it. And I can tell you that whether it's a Facebook promotion or a YouTube promotion, and I think through YouTube we're up to like 9,000 subscribers on our Madden PT channel. I mean, we've never come close to anything that rivals direct mail. There's a really good chapter in a book by Craig. It's either Craig Simpson or Craig Proctor called The Direct Mail Solution. He wrote a chapter on it. You just want to read that. But the statistics are there that support doing a newsletter versus doing something electronic. Electronic is a nice additional piece, a nice complementary piece. It should not be the only way that you are communicating with your past patients, though. Said you have had 200 plus new patients in a month. How many PTs, PTAs do you have working at your clinic? At our main office here, we have, that's 4 full-time teams. So a full-time team is a physical therapist. They're all DPTs with the exception of myself. So 4 full-time teams is a physical therapist, a PTA, and an aide. And they typically see 100, 120 visits in a week. Sometimes even more. So yes, that we have the staff to handle that, and we also have a part-time PT who specializes in lymphedema and incontinence. So I guess 4.5 full-time equivalents of teams, or 9 full-time equivalents total. How do we make physicians not see all PT as the same? Great question. I believe this came from an email. One is you need to offer something of value, and it's many times. I wasn't sure if I was going to go into this or not, but we'll go into it since the question came up via email. But many times as physical therapists, we buy bait that satisfies us, that attracts us. So we've all bought newsletters or used newsletters or read newsletters where it says 80% of all people at some point in their life suffer from back pain. Guess what? If I'm a patient, that attracts me 0. If I'm a doctor, that attracts me 0. But many times what we'll do, so if I'm, the classic example or analogy is I love to fly fish. So if I'm fly fishing, and right now it's the end of trout season here, so I use something called a size 24 midge. And it's a super, super small fishing lure. Okay, it's not attracted to me at all. It's hard as heck to put on the hook or put the line through the eye of the hook because it's so small. I like to use something that rattles and shakes and looks a lot more amazing, or floats backwards into the fish, or has a whole bunch of bells and whistles, and maybe is more expensive or more flashy. But guess what? That's what I'm buying. That's me as a fisherman buying to feed myself. If I want to catch fish, I need to use that size 24 midge and figure out how to get the line through the eye of the hook, the eye of the hook, so I can catch that fish. Because studies show scientifically that when they pump the stomach of the trout, that's what they're feeding on. They're feeding on a midge. So many times as PTs, we get lost. And we're providing the physician, the referring physician, with something that we perceive as valuable, but it's really valuable to us as a PT. And I'll give a real controversial example of that. We've had an interview one time where the person had the PT had I think 16 letters after their name, and we got to the point of he had an OCS, and we have other therapists that have an OCS, and he just said, I deserve $10,000 a year more because I have the OCS. And I said, that's great. Tell me how you're, justify that exchange for me. And he said, well, I can market myself to physicians because I have the OCS. I said, oh, is that right? I said, I just don't have experience in that. And he got very, very defensive during the course of the interview. I said, well, okay, here's the deal. You're in private practice right now, and you're struggling, and now you want to come here and work. So what I want you to do is I want you to go out and find one physician who can tell me what OCS stands for. And that was the end of the interview, and I never got a call back. But the simple fact of it all is OCS is something for peer-to-peer recognition. It's not for physical therapist to patient recognition, and it's not for physical therapist to referral source recognition. What is for physician recognition is results. So if you can use, and I'll parlay this into the next question, which is traditional marketing and doctors' offices has produced no results for us. We need more patients. What else can we do? Well, one, you need to figure out a way where you can actually build a relationship with those physicians. So how do we do that? Okay, you're listening. So let's take this. A typical newsletter that we send to the physicians is very vanilla. And what I mean by that is this. It's, again, attractive to the PT, not likely to the physician. So one of the things that we did in our area, and here's a little golden nugget that you get that I wasn't going to share, but since you hung on there, I'm going to share it with you. We did a survey about 7 years ago of our local doctors, and the survey was this: what do you read? And it actually all formed around herniated disc. So what 3 journals are you most likely to read in any given month? And we actually got a ton of responses back out of 800 physicians. I think we had over 100 respond back to us. And the answers were New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, so the Journal of the American Medical Association, and that stinks. Oh, Journal of Family Physician is the third one, and then the Journal of I think it's called Orthopedic and Spine Surgery was the other one. So if you want to market to somebody, and especially a group of family physicians or a group of orthopedic surgeons, you really need to get in there and figure out what they're listening to. So how do you do that? Well, you're going to have to read what they read, or you're going to have somebody on your staff do that, or like we'll get here the special offer here in a second for you for hanging on to the very end of this webinar. But you're going to have to understand their language. You're going to have to be empathetic to how they look at patient care. You're going to have to understand where they're from and be able to speak their language. So, for myself and for the practices that I work with here through Breakthrough PT Marketing and that we help, the one thing that I'll do is on a daily basis, I'm scanning New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, and Family Physician, and that fourth one, the Journal of Orthopedic and Spine Surgery, for anything that is relevant to what we promote in PT. Then when I'm referencing an idea, so like last month I was talking about stenosis, what I could do is go back, and I wasn't using physical therapy journal articles, I was using what is published in peer-reviewed physician articles. You better believe that when I go in and I finally get some one-on-one time with a doctor, even if it's 5 minutes, usually what they'll say is this: I've heard good things about you. Now, even though they read it, and you're going to find this peculiar, but with our newsletter and our communications that we send out, they'll read it, they'll at least look at it and we have a whole format for how to do that. If you haven't done so already, you should. There's a free course you can sign up for at breakthroughptmarketing.com. It's our patient newsletter course, which is very, very basic if you haven't done it before. But right now we're talking about some more advanced concepts. But you can get very specific in what you promote for. Why not have a podiatry topic? Go to the podiatrist. Why not have a back pain and pregnancy type topic? Go to the OBGYN and the urologist and the type of physician that is seeing that type of patient. Why not have something on total hip replacements and total knee replacements? Go to the orthopedic surgeons. So hopefully I gave you some insight there that there are other options out there. Have traditional marketing techniques such as sending in a marketing rep worked for you in the past? If so, what techniques? We do have a marketing rep. It is getting harder and harder to get in there. We do. There's no way I have time to share that here, but through yet another survey that we did, we found a really good pathway to get into doctors by, we asked doctors what they were giving patients, and it just came from, so if I have 5 minutes with you and you're a potential referral source, I'll say, something along the lines of, okay, so, what do you use PT? And they'll say yes. Like every time they say yes. And I'll say, okay, so did you see a patient this morning who would be a good candidate for PT? And they'll say, yep. And I'll say, okay, what was the diagnosis? Now, I always carry an iPad with me, and, this is very canned, but I'll have a 30-second video of a before and after back patient, before and after shoulder patient, before and after neck patient, before and after knee patient. And you don't need to have that available to show your result, but it's a really nice touch. So I'll break out the iPad, click on the video. Do you have 30 seconds to watch this video? And it shows, I think our shoulder patient's name is Rick, and he goes like this, and he's wincing in pain. And then it says after the first treatment, and he raises up to 110, still, shuffling his eyebrows, and then it says 4 weeks later on day of discharge, and he raises up, and it says, strength doubled, very much in the physician's language, and it happened in 36 seconds. That they see. Then that parlays into, okay, so what would you normally do if a guy like this showed up at your clinic? And they'll say, well, I'll hand him an exercise sheet, and created this whole other pathway. And what we ended up doing was we created a system to where we're over in 200 doctors' offices now, and we provide passes all the hospital tests, but we provide a pathway for them to hand out basically a trifold brochure, which you can get on our website, it's madampt.com, and take a look at that. And we have these physicians handing out, top 3 exercises for different different areas. Next one, next question is from Denise. If a PT was named best of in their area for the year, what would be an effective and cost-efficient way to market that to these physicians? Well, one, I would see where that came from. So in our area, we have like Central Penn Parent. So if it's to, that's a publication for mothers. And if I was named the best of Central Penn Parent, who's that going to go to? I'm going to send it to OBGYN, and I'm also going to send it to, anything related to those that are involved in taking care of mothers and pediatrics. So pediatrics, the type of pediatrics that we would treat here in an outpatient orthopedic clinic. So that component isn't really your main promotion, because that's like it gets really annoying if it's a look at me, look at me, look at me. Like, that doesn't work in marketing. What works in marketing is, okay, I want to interest you in something, and I'm going to steal from Gary Halbert, who's considered the greatest copywriter of all time by many, and he used a formula called AIDA. So attention, interest, desire, and then action. And I go through this in the marketing or the patient newsletter course as well. So when I'm using the best of, that's going to be nothing more than after I've caught their attention, after I have spurned their interest a little bit, after I've created a desire, I'm going to basically say, why should you listen to me? Here's why. And that's going to be one of my accolades. I was voted, the Central Penn Parent 2014 Best Physical Therapist in Central Pennsylvania, or whatever the award is, and list my other achievements. I have the #1 video in the world on sciatica. I have the #1 video in the world on YouTube for stenosis, which are things that I just pulled off the top of my head and that I use for my own accolades of why a physician should be listening to me. Can I repeat the name of the book on stenosis and where to order? Yeah, this you can, if you want a copy of this. Pain-Free Motion for Your Lower Back is the book that I read a few years ago. It's a white label book where other physical therapists can use it for their own individual purposes. If you hang on here in a minute, you're going to want to go to a site called breakthroughptmarketing.com/apply, and there'll be a space there where you can share some information, and I'll make sure that just put it in the make sure you specifically request it, and I'll send you a free copy of the book. If you want to purchase the book for whatever reason, you can go to iBooks and just search lower back pain or pain-free motion for your lower back, or you can call our office here, 717-901-9487. And I know today we just shipped out a hardcover copy to somebody in British Columbia, which is a whole other pathway of getting patients. So next question, what news network did you say your partner uses? It's on the local ABC. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's channel 21 here locally. I'm sorry, 27. And how do you go about capturing patients' email addresses for newsletters, etc., in your intake paperwork? We ask email. I mean, and our receptionists are trained to have people fill it out in its entirety, but it just says email. Patients' email addresses for newsletters, etc., in your intake paperwork. The other pathway to do is have them request for specific information. So I'll email this to you, so they're opting in to what you're giving. You need to have something of value there. So get a free signed book, or get this when you opt in to our email newsletter, or get a PDF of the book or something like that. So there's some sort of enticement for them to opt in. They opt in, and they continue to get messages from you on an ongoing basis. Okay, it looks like that concludes our seminar here. And now, for those who have hung on to the very end, congratulations, you made it. And here is our very special offer. So I got together with Carl. We wanted to do something very specific for you. There are 5 clinical predictor rules for every single private practice owner that I work with. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to breakthroughptmarketing.com/apply, APPLY. /. So // my mistake.
I put it up on the screen so everybody can see it, and I'm also going to shoot the URL up on below the video, so in the comments you should be able to see it as well. And we'll also probably send it. We have a way to figure out who's watching, so we'll send the email out to the people who are watching, so you can, if you don't know what the link is. But yeah, go ahead, Chad. Tell them about it.
Okay, so we have 5 clinical predictor roles. We'll make sure you pass all those before we have a specific offer. But what I'm willing to share, go to that, share your information, and we will give you absolutely free a 20-minute coaching call with us and the copy that I used for the greatest promotion ever. So that was the exact copy that I used here in the month that we had 209 new patients. And so that was a one-time campaign we sent to past patients, cost us less than $4,000 to do, and was worth over $100,000 in income, not production, so not what we built out. Was worth over $100,000 to our clinic, and I'm willing to share that with you. But you need to go to breakthroughptmarketing.com/apply, share your information, and then we will be in touch with you to set up and schedule the 20-minute coaching call. And then at the 20-minute coaching call, once we complete that, I'll share that copy with you as well. And we'll also, just to make sure that you're on point and that you're actually a private practice owner, we'll go through the 5 clinical predictor rules as well. But that is the best possible offer that I could put together for you, and it's absolutely free. breakthroughptmarketing.com/apply. Thanks.